Tim, thanks for coming on the show with us today. And I know that Tim comes on the show to talk to us about things going on in the local, Tampa Bay commercial real estate market. And I know that the short sale aspect of commercial real estate is something pretty important for people, because it's something that they often don't think about as an option like you do in the residential world, where you've got kind of waivers of a lot of people go the short sale path in the retail or traditional residential real estate world, because you kind of know what you're coming into. The lenders are willing to waive deficiency. There's a lot of news about things, and it's a lot more streamlined and easier to understand, and it's more promoted, because there are a lot more of them. So I thought it was important for you to maybe bring up a couple topics related to commercial people that don't have equity, they're in a negative position, or they're behind on their payments and they need help, about the options that are available to them you can help them with.
Absolutely, Andrew, and congratulations again on your ranking.
Thank you.
I know your team very well. I know how hard they do work, and you're a dominant force here in the Tampa Bay area, and you just keep doing it year after year. And again, thank you for letting me come on. Again, my name's Tim Watson. I'm with Remax ACR Lead Group. We're speaking about the short sale situation, as you mentioned, in the commercial arena. It is very similar, of course, to a short sale in a residential situation. And you mentioned deficiency judgments, and I think in years past, it still may be current. Maybe you can keep me up to date on this about the deficiency judgment situation with residential. They were waiving that, I believe.
For the most part, I would say it's uncommon for us to hear about somebody being pursued for deficiency. Most lenders and servicers and investors on mortgages are waiving it, and even offering up front to waive it. I mean, sometimes you have challenges with second lenders, but most first lenders, unless the person has been fraudulent or lied about their assets or has a lot of assets, and they discover it, it's generally that they're not pursuing much. Now, that's not to say that happens all the time, but certainly, it's certainly not common to see someone get pursued.
Right, and there for a while, I think Bush, when he was in office, put in some sort of law that they couldn't go after him for a while. I think that may have expired. I don't know if they...
No, it got extended, and it's extended to the end of this year.
Excellent, excellent. One of the fears with commercial properties is that didn't apply. And I talked to a lot of people, of course, about this very same topic, and they're afraid to do anything, but I'm seeing more situations where commercial lenders are actually working with the borrower. I'm seeing more situations called deed in lieu. And that can be a situation where instead of foreclosing on the property, the title and the deed is just given to the lender. Of course, the lender wants to make sure that there is value in the property. And they'll bring guys like myself out to do broker's price of opinions, analyze the property, see really what the value is in today's market, and see what their basis is. But I'm seeing more and more of that. In fact, I just closed a deal here recently where it was a deed in lieu situation. I'll do a few of those a year. I'm noticing more and more of those.
Right. And I think, and again, every person's situation is different. Every bank or lender on a commercial property is different. But, just to kind of explain the process, if you're doing a residential short sale, you've got to, not only do you have to sell the home and find a buyer, but then you've got to package up a set of financial documents that the bank requires, and it's going to be things like bank statements and tax returns and hardship letters and basically a whole batch of documents to say, here's why I need help. Is there anything different from a commercial real estate? I mean, is there anything unique that someone out there that owns a commercial property thinking about this has to provide or go through, or does the bank not require as much information?
Well, it's about the same thing. And of course, in commercial real estate, they're going to analyze the property's value as per what it can produce. And if they notice that the property doesn't have a tenant in it, then they know that there's no cash flow. Because a lot of properties in commercial arena, the borrower doesn't really have to qualify. It's the property that has to qualify.
Right.
But yes.
Which is much different than the residential world. I mean, you're buying a home to live in it. They're qualifying your income, your assets, your ability to repay, your likelihood for staying, and all these types of things. When in commercial, it's all about what kind of money does it make.
Right, and what's happening in commercial is why a lot of people are losing their property or have lost their property is because lease rates have been cut basically in half. So when someone bought a property, 5, 6 years ago, lease rates are at a certain point to where it made sense for a certain borrower to borrow so much money, okay, almost
Right.
double the value
Because
of the property.
you could afford to, because the money coming in was worth it.
Right, so now when lease rates are basically cut in half, there goes half the value of the property, and there's no cash flow to pay the note.
Right.
And the bank understands that, and of course they're gonna analyze that scenario also.
And, you know, speaking of all this, if you have questions about this, if you want to talk about commercial real estate, if you're curious about the market, whether you have questions about buying, selling, foreclosures, short sales, luxury properties, if it's real estate related, we'd love the opportunity to talk to you. You can call us toll free, 855-970-WFLA. That number actually rings to my real estate office whenever we aren't on air, so if you want to talk to us today, or certainly you want to talk to us off air, again, the phone number is 855-970-9352. 855 is a toll-free number, and if you've got questions now, or you want to talk about commercial real estate, or you've got something you know, for Tim or I that you're curious about, feel free to give us a call. Again, it's 855-970-WFLA. When we aren't on air, you can check us out on Facebook or YouTube by searching for The Duncan Duo or The Duncan Duo Show, and of course our main website is theduncanduo.com. You know, you mentioned specifically about your loss mitigation training, and I think that's something that a lot of agents, when the market shifted, had to go through. And it's in the residential world, it's becoming less prevalent because we're seeing a lot less distressed properties, a lot less short sales. But like we've talked about in prior shows, commercial always trails the residential market. So the short sale, foreclosure, you know, stuff is going to be hanging around commercial a little while longer. And you know, so being, you know, someone out there in one of these situations, you definitely need to talk to someone like Tim if you're in a tough spot. You know, TimWatsonGroup.com. You know, because he can help you get through that process and avoid, you know, the hassles of you know, the greater credit damage, the greater risk for, you know, asset, you know, them coming after assets if you go the foreclosure route instead of doing a short sale.
Yeah, it's so important today to get ahead of the curve. Don't wait. If you're behind in your payments, or you've already received the less pendants in the mail, you're being foreclosed on. I know it is a long process, but you know, don't let the property deteriorate. Give me a call.
Well, and I think what's crucial is you get so many people that just kind of stick their head in the sand and give up and are afraid, right, or you know, they don't, you know, they don't know there's people out there to help them. And I think in these situations they really have to understand our goal is to help them. I mean, in short sales, and I don't know what your process, but ours is, you know, it doesn't cost the client anything to go through this process. It's if we accomplish the short sale and it closes, the real estate broker is compensated. Outside of that, you know, for getting a real estate broker's help to go through this process, you don't have to pay any money, you don't have to write any checks. There's really no risk to you, other than, you know, the risk to determine what the bank is going to do once we get an offer. And there's no, you don't have to decide on that until we actually have one for them to answer. So you get a lot of people who are always really concerned, and there are some scam artists and, you know, people out there doing short sale flips and some shady stuff that happens that people get taken advantage of. But, you know, if you're talking to a reputable real estate broker that does short sales, whether it's commercial or residential, the goal is to get the home sold to a new buyer, to get you out of the situation, not to bilk you for more money or anything like that. And the bank will pay our fee. I mean, they're willing to pay real estate brokers pretty consistent fee schedules, you know, to do a short sale, because it's better for them too.
Absolutely, and that's ultimately is what's going to happen. And again, you don't want the property to go vacant. You want to get ahead of the curve. You want to get it on the market just as soon as possible. Bring a buyer into the picture. Introduce the buyer to all parties, and of course, introduce the buyer to the lender. And the lender will analyze that contract if it goes to contract. And that contract is going to affect the basis of what the decision will be by the lender.
Right, and I think the other side of it is knowing that it is about the money. And we talked, you know, you kind of mentioned this in an email to me about some topics for the show today. But the property itself, even if it's a short sale, you still have to find a buyer to buy it. And the buyer that's going to buy it is going to buy it based on the money that it makes. You know, right, what kind of cap rate, what kind of yield. So even if you're in one of those short sale or foreclosure situations, if you've got the property rented, make sure to have it documented, make sure to have leases, rent rolls, tenant names, you know, what kind of money they have on deposit. The bank's going to need that too, but it's important for you to have it. You know, don't just give up and stop documenting things, but if you want to sell it to a buyer wants to see that. You know?
Right, anybody that owns a piece of commercial real estate, whether they be in a foreclosure process or just a straight retail sale, as you may call it, if you've got an income producing property that has 1 tenant, 5 tenant, 20 tenants, always keep good books.
But you know, it's
Very
amazing how many people don't.
No, I agree.
You know,
I
and
agree.
it's not just it's I think sometimes the brokers, you know, have to really kind of remind them when they're going to put a property on the market. Like, you know, we've emailed you about properties before, and we've looked at stuff, and it's amazing to me the kind of the lack of information available about a particular property when it comes to what does it rent for. You know, that all should be pretty well known. You know,
Right.
pretty easy to find, pretty easy to provide, and I think that, you know, you look at the listing brokers, sometimes they'll list a property and put a price out there and, you know, not know that information, or the seller is kind of like, you got to have that information. If you don't have that information, you're not serious, you're not real, is the way I see it.
And it looks bad too. You know, a buyer will be a lot more suspicious if the property is not well documented. And if you really want the maximum value, you're going to have the documentations. Even provide certain forms from your tax return. And
Right.
all accountants can provide that. I think it's a K9,
Yep.
K2 or something like that. I'm sorry, but that's going to show basically the income and losses on a property in a given year. So important to the marketplace.
Yeah, well, and again, if you have questions about any of this, if you want to talk about commercial real estate, if you're listening to the show and have listened to us before and have questions about buying a home or selling a home, foreclosures, short sales, mortgages, if it is real estate related, we'd love the opportunity to talk to you. You can call us now or anytime we aren't on air at 855-970-9352. Again, that's 855-970-WFLA. And we'll be right back after a quick break here on the Duncan Duo Show.